Welcome to Secrets of the Haunted Mansion. What you're about to see is the result of over 20 years' experience in professional set design and construction. Many of the methods and techniques used in this video are dangerous and must be performed using the appropriate safety measures. The producers take no responsibility for your actions. Good fright. And now your hosts, Kevin McCurdy and Jeffrey Urban. Hello, and welcome to Secrets of the Haunted Mansion. My name is Kevin McCurdy.
And I'm Jeffrey Urban.
And we're going to show you today some of the techniques that we've used at the Haunted Mansion for the past 18 years.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out with your own haunted house, we're going to show you step by step how to create wonderful scenes like this and realistic props that you can use in your own haunted house. Realistic props like this wonderful Iron Maiden that we have right over here. Hey, get back in there. That's a little bit too realistic.
I should say so. We're also going to use some of the painting techniques that you can use in your own haunted house.
Then later on, we're going to go on a field trip and show you just a couple of the hundreds of rooms we produced for our own haunted house over the last 18 years.
Cut.
Good. Okay, Kev, what's the next scene coming up?
Well, what we should probably do is just show the people how we made this set for the video.
Right, that'd be a great place to start.
Okay.
I guess we start with the walls, right? That's where we started with.
Right. We're gonna.
Oh, you're looking for makeup? That's 2 doors down to the left. Thanks.
Let's go see how we've created these rock walls for this particular set.
What's this? One way you can get some stone walls in your haunted house is to paint them directly onto the wall surface. Kev, can you show us how you do that?
Sure. What we've done is we've laid out the stone pattern, okay? And I'm just going to continue on with that and show you a little bit. You want to make it as realistic as possible here.
And one way you do that is to make sure that your scenes don't match up. You have 2 rocks with 1 rock going over, then you've got 2 rocks going over that other rock. If you've ever seen real stone walls, you know that that's the way they built them. This interlocking stuff holds it all together. It's pretty good.
Okay. And now,
what's the next step?
We're ready to give the rocks a base coat. We have 3 different colors here, just a black, a white, and I mixed up some gray. And we're just going to give that stone a base color of gray. And you don't have to be too careful when you do this, because we're not going to paint over it later on anyway.
Yeah, all you're doing here is just filling in the background. The other kinds of shading and colors will go on there and give that real rock look.
Okay. Now we've got a base color on, and we want to make sure that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, because we want to keep these colors wet as we go, because we're going to be blending a lot.
Now, before you get on this next thing, isn't it important to figure out which way your light's going to be on here?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we're going to say that our light is coming from this direction over here.
So it's over here and shining down.
Right. And that's going to give our stones a very three-dimensional quality. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some black in on this side of the stone, figuring that the light is coming from this direction.
And you're just popping that on there. There's nothing special or magic about the pattern that you're using?
Well, no. What I'm doing is I'm kind of stippling it with the brush. I'm using the end of the brush to kind of dab, just like this. And that's going to give us, I'm also leaving it darker at the bottom, and I'm gradually, I'm not putting any more paint on the brush, just working my way up to the center of the rock like this.
So you're imagining this rock has got a curve to it.
Right.
And because that's below the curve with the light up here, it's not getting a direct light.
Right. And then I get a little bit lighter, I dab a little bit lighter as I get up to the top, just like that. Okay, now that's kind of got a shading to the bottom. Now we're going to take a little bit of white and we're going to highlight that.
You also have to remember that when you have this in your haunted house, there's going to be other lighting coming into this, which will help to highlight some of the things that we're doing here.
Right, and see how that gives it just a little bit of highlight? We can also imagine that the rock has some kind of dimension on the front. So if we want to take a little bit of a white line and come down, and again, I'm just dabbing the ends of the brush onto the rock, just like this.
There's really no mistakes you could make here, is there?
No, you can keep going over it until you get something that you really like. Okay, now I'm going to continue on, and we'll come back and see how the mortar lines look in a minute.
Yeah, in the meantime, let's take a look at some stone walls so we can see what kind of patterns you may want to use in your haunted house.
Next time you're out of the castle, take a look around. There are many patterns of stone to be found. There are rubble and brick, if you know what I mean. Best pick the one to fit your scene.
Well, we've got a pretty big section done here, and before we go any further, I just want to point out that when you're right on top of this wall like this, it doesn't really have that three-dimensional look. But when you begin to step back a little bit, you really begin to see those rocks coming out. Now, Kev, I see you've gone on to the mortar lines, but I just wanted to ask you one thing. But what are these black lines in through here?
The black lines we put in the rock just to create another part of the three-dimensional quality. We just take a little paint on the edge of the brush and run them up like this. And it could be a crack or it could be just a little ledge in the rock that there's a shadow underneath. And it just helps bring out those rocks even more.
And it's just catching that light and bringing those rocks out.
Right.
Now it's important to remember the reason that we're using this painted rock effect here is we're going to use this in a high traffic area. Without the rocks actually sticking out, people won't be able to scuff up against them. Now what about these mortar lines?
Well, you can either have a light color mortar line or a dark color mortar line. Today we're using black.
Does it matter?
Not really. And we're just going to go over the mortar lines like this. Now it's important to have a kind of a natural flow in these lines.
Mm-hmm.
If you're painting and you do these straight mortar lines like this, it's not going to look natural. You want to make it look like the mortar is actually flowed around these rocks when the wall is
because they put it on wet and they just set the rocks in there so it would have nice rounded edges.
So you want to make sure you're kind of staying with your rock pattern in the beginning and cleaning up the edges of the rocks. This should have a little curve. There's more mortar sitting in this area. And that's what's going to make it look very real.
Wow, it really sets those rocks out from each other.
Right.
Well, why don't we continue on finishing this up and we'll show you the final technique in just a second. The final aspect in preparing our stone wall for our haunted house is to apply a technique called spattering. Kev, what's spattering?
Well, it's a technique that we use to soften the entire look of it. What we've done is we've taken about 3 parts water to 1 part paint, in this case black paint, and what we're going to do is thin that down enough so that we can spatter using the brush. We take most of the paint off the brush at first like this, so it's not dripping, okay? And then we want to stand back a little bit.
Okay.
And with a flick of the wrist, you spatter the entire piece, and that kind of helps give it some texture too. I'm going to do this a little bit more, and you can be as heavy or as light on the spattering as you like, but the most important thing is you want to keep it kind of even, just like that.
That really does pull it all together and give it some nice texture. It gives it a nice, full, complete, three-dimensional look. Now, you just use black on this, or could you use other colors as well?
First, you could use a black spatter, then you could go back over it and use a lighter color spatter if you like.
Wow. That gives a great look for our haunted house with our stone walls. And don't forget, there's also going to be lighting in the room, which is going to accent this even more. Now, let's take a look at another method of stone wall production you can use in your haunted house. Hi gang, we're back again. Only now you can see we've got the entire wall painted with our one-dimensional stone. And the paint's set up and dry. It looks pretty good, except for this section around the doorway right here. What are we going to do with that?
We're going to make some three-dimensional stones out of some blue styrofoam. It's the 2